Have you ever met someone who is always busy correcting other people, yet her own house is on fire? Someone who is more concerned about the neighbor's soup pot than about the hunger in her own kitchen? That was Mama John. Everybody in her street knew her. If you passed by with untidy hair, she had something to say. If you walked with a torn cloth, she would shake her head and call you names. If your child sneezed without covering his mouth, she would lecture you like a school teacher. She was quick to talk about others, but blind to what was happening under her own roof. It was a bright morning, the kind that made the air feel sharp and fresh. Children with clean uniforms and polished shoes were already on the road, hurrying to school. Mothers stood at doorsteps, waving goodbye to their children. Some even ran after them to adjust a tie or dust their socks. But one boy walked alone, dragging his slippers a little on the ground. His uniform was torn at the pocket, and his hair looked rough like he had just rolled out of bed. His name was Michael. "Good morning, Mama John," he greeted politely when he saw the woman standing near her gate. Her eyes quickly scanned him from head to toe. "Michael, why is your uniform torn like this? Look at the pocket hanging out like a rag. Is this how you are going to school? Where is your mother? How can she allow you to dress like this?" Michael adjusted the strap of his bag and said with a shy smile, "My mother will sew it when I return, Ma. We didn't have thread at home to sew it last night. My other uniform is so tight that I can't fit into it anymore, so my mother said I should manage this one for today. She promised that as soon as I get back, she will sew it, wash it, and make it ready for tomorrow. She's already on her way to buy thread, and she said once she gathers money, she will sew an extra uniform for me, oh." Mama John folded her arms and shook her head like she was hearing the worst thing in the world. "How can you not know that your uniform was torn? Even your mother was too careless to find out and mend it. Now look at you, walking with your pocket like that. Anyway, go before you are late. But wait, why didn't you comb your hair? Your head looks like a bush." Michael sighed, a little embarrassed. "I was almost late, Ma. My comb is inside my bag. I will comb it immediately I get to the school gate." "That is bad," Mama John scolded. "You are supposed to be properly dressed before leaving the house. Just look at yourself. Anyway, go. Be good, okay?" "Yes, Ma. Okay, Ma. Bye." Michael waved and ran down the street towards school. The moment he left, Mama John muttered to herself in annoyance. "Stupid mother. She cannot arrange her child well. Careless woman." She shook her head again and hissed before walking back into her own compound. Inside her house, it was a different story. The small sitting room was scattered with shirts, sandals, and books. 3 boys were sitting there, looking helpless. Her daughter, Ada, the eldest, was in the bedroom ironing a blouse she wanted to wear to look neat while searching for work. She had finished secondary school months ago and wanted to save money before going to the university. The first son, John, who should have been in SS3, was still in SS2 because he had repeated the class once. The second son, Philip, was also in SS2, which meant he was now his elder brother's classmate. The last son, Promise, was supposed to be in JSS3, but he was still stuck in Basic 6. He had repeated that class 4 times. As soon as Mama John entered, she shouted, "Why are you people still here? Why have you not gone to school?" John, the eldest son, replied, "Mama, there is no water at home. No water for us to brush, bath, or even wash our uniforms. We used the little water left in the bucket last night to soak our uniforms, hoping that you or Papa would come back home with some money so we could go to Papa Nelson's house to fetch water. But you didn't come. I even saw you yesterday evening near the shop where they make hair. I thought you were coming home, but we didn't see you again until this morning." Mama John waved her hand as if brushing away his words. "I was on my way to evening fellowship. I greeted the women making their customers' hair. We talked for a while. Ada, still in the room, murmured under her breath, "I'm sure you spent the night there, saying things that should not be your business and forgot to come home." She spoke low enough that Mama John did not hear. "I got to church late," Mama John continued loudly. "I found out it was actually a night vigil, not just evening fellowship. Since it was too late to come back home, I stayed. But why didn't your father give you money to buy soap and water?" "Papa came back, but you are not around. He said he will wait for you. We don't know where he slept because this morning we woke up and found the door unlocked. He didn't come home." Promise, the youngest shouted. "So our uniforms are still inside the water. No soap to wash, no food, no water, nothing. How will we go to school, Mama?" "Shut up," she snapped. "Is it my fault? You children don't know how to manage. Everything is my head. Let me think." She searched her bag, brought out a few crumpled notes, and gave it to them. "Go and buy soap and water. Wash your uniforms first. When you finish, you can eat garri." But by the time they washed and spread their uniforms, the school hours had already passed. That day, none of her children went to school. Later that same week, another incident happened that made things worse. It was a Thursday morning, and once again, Mama John had stopped another neighbor's child to complain about how his socks were not white enough. She told the child that his mother was lazy and careless. But when she returned home, she met her own children in an argument. "What is happening here?" she asked angrily. Ada explained, "Mama, Promise is crying because he can't find his notebook. He said he wrote his homework in it yesterday, but now it is missing. Philip said maybe it is inside the basin where you kept dirty clothes, because last night you pushed everything on the floor when you were looking for your headscarf. Promise tried to search there, but the basin is full of smelly clothes." Promise, his face red with tears, said, "Mama, I looked everywhere. My teacher will beat me if I don't submit that homework. I'll be flogged again." Instead of helping, Mama John shouted, "Will you keep quiet, you crybaby? Notebook, notebook, is that what will kill you? You should be more careful." "But Mama," Ada said calmly, "he did not lose it by himself. You scattered the things last night when you were rushing out. That was when the book got lost." "Are you saying I am careless?" Mama John's eyes flashed with anger. "Me, careless? You children don't know what I go through every day. Ungrateful people." Promise continued crying. He went to school without his homework and received 6 strokes of cane that day. The pattern repeated itself. While Mama John was busy talking about Michael's torn pocket, her own children were sitting at home with dirty uniforms and hungry stomachs. While she corrected other people's children for untidy hair, our own last son was crying because he couldn't even keep his school things safe. But the truth was this: Mama John was blind to her own feelings. She was a busy human bee, buzzing from house to house, poking her nose into other people's matters while her own hive was falling apart. Gossip is like smoke. It rises slowly, spreads quietly, and before you know it, the whole neighborhood smells of it. That was what began to happen to Mama John. People had endured her sharp tongue for years, but they were finally getting tired. It was no longer funny that she could point out everyone's mistakes while her own children were known for dirtiness, lateness, and failure in school. It started small. One morning, Mrs. Grace, who lived 3 houses away, sent her 10-year-old son to buy bread. The boy wore slippers because his school shoes had not dried after washing. Unfortunately, he passed by Mama John. "Stop there," Mama John commanded. "Where are you going looking like that? Slippers to the street? Are you not ashamed? What kind of careless mother sends her child out half-dressed?" The boy, embarrassed, muttered, "I am just buying bread." She hissed, "Your mother is lazy, that's why. I will talk to her myself." When the boy returned and told his mother, Mrs. Grace felt insulted. That evening, she visited her neighbor, Mrs. Helen, to complain. "This woman has crossed the line," Mrs. Grace said, shaking her head. "How can she insult me through my child? Does she think her own children are saints?
I see them every morning wearing dirty uniforms, carrying dry mouths because they haven't brushed, and she has the guts to call me lazy." Mrs. Helen laughed bitterly. "That is how she is. She called my daughter careless last week because the girl was holding her socks in her hand instead of wearing them. Meanwhile, her last son has been in basic 6 since my daughter entered secondary school. Imagine." The gossip spread like wind. By the end of the week, half the street had one story or another about Mama John. One woman said, "She told me that my soup had too much oil, as if she buys the palm oil for me." Another added, "She told me my husband works like a drunk. Is that her business?" Soon, people began to avoid her. If they saw her coming, they crossed to the other side of the road. If she entered a shop, customers became silent until she left. Her greetings became like pepper on their tongues. Nobody wanted it. But Mama John did not notice at first. She thought they were jealous of her wisdom. "They don't like hearing the truth," she told Ada proudly. "I am the only one bold enough to correct them. I am doing God's work." Ada only sighed. She had long learned that her mother never listened. One Saturday morning, the street had a small emergency. A little boy had fallen into the open drainage while chasing a ball. His mother screamed for help. People rushed out of their houses with ropes, sticks, and even ladders. Within minutes, they pulled the boy out, wet but alive. Everybody clapped and comforted the crying child. Everybody except Mama John. She arrived late, pushing through the crowd, ready to talk. "You see," she shouted, "this is what I always say. Mothers are careless. How can you allow a child to play near drainage? What were you doing? Chatting with your friends, Abby? Useless woman." The rescued boy's mother, still shaking, ignored her. She turned to thank those who helped. But the crowd could not bear it anymore. Mama John," one man snapped. "Instead of helping, you are here insulting." Another woman added, "Where were you when we were bringing him out? You didn't touch rope, you didn't touch stick, you just came to open mouth." Someone else whispered loudly, "Let her talk. Her own last son is still stuck in primary school, yet she's the one advising us." Laughter followed. Mama John's face turned red with anger. She hissed and walked away, but in her heart, she felt a sting. From that day, the neighbors no longer kept quiet when she spoke. They began to answer her back. One evening, she saw a teenage girl sweeping in front of her house. The girl wore an old wrapper that had holes in it. "Shame," Mama John declared. "Your mother cannot even buy you good cloth, tattered like beggar." The girl's mother, who was sitting nearby, stood up with her broom in hand. "Mama John, enough is enough. If you talk about my child again, you will see Pepe. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? Or your children? Before you call my wrapper tattered, go and buy your son new uniform. His pocket has been torn since last term." Voices rose from different corners supporting the woman. "She is right. Yes. Mind your own business, busybody." That night, gossip about Mama John was the main discussion. By now, even the landlord had started to take notice. He lived in the same compound, but in the front flat. For months, he had received complaints from tenants that she insulted them too much. He had warned her twice, but she never changed. The breaking point came one hot afternoon. The landlord's wife was spreading clothes on the line when Mama John walked past. Instead of greeting, she frowned at the clothes. "Ha, madam, your bra is faded. Don't you feel shame hanging this outside? People will laugh." The landlord's wife gasped. "Excuse me, are you mad?" The quarrel grew so loud that the landlord himself came out. He asked his wife what happened. When she explained, he exploded. "Mama John, enough. I have received too many complaints about you. Every day you insult tenants, you insult my wife, you insult everybody. Is this your father's house?" Mama John tried to argue, but the landlord raised his hand. "Pack out. By the end of this month, I don't want to see you here. If you like, carry your gossip and go to another compound. You are a troublemaker." The news spread like wildfire. Neighbors shook their heads, but secretly felt relieved. "Ha, she deserves it," said one. "She can go and disturb another street," another added. Ada heard everything and sat quietly in her room, tears rolling down her cheeks. She thought about how different things could have been if her mother had used the same energy to care for them instead of fighting others. The children suffered more. They could no longer fetch water from neighbors because people refused them. When Promise went to ask for water, one woman told him, "Go and tell your mother to fetch it herself. She knows how to run her mouth, let her use it to fill your bucket." They were avoided in school too. Other children whispered, "Those are the children of the gossip woman." Some even laughed at them. But Mama John did not notice the damage. She still walked proudly, telling herself that she was standing for the truth. She did not realize that her children were paying the price for her mouth. As the month drew to an end, she still had no plan for where to move. The landlord reminded her daily. The tension in the house grew heavy. Papa John, who was always silent, finally spoke one evening. "Woman, because of your mouth, we are losing our home. Do you know the shame? Where will we go with these children?" Instead of being sorry, she shouted back, "Don't put blame on me. These neighbors hate me because I tell them the truth. You should support me, not insult me." Papa John shook his head and left the house. Ada whispered to her brothers, "If Mama John doesn't change, we will suffer more than this." And indeed, suffering was waiting for them just around the corner. Because the more Mama John buzzed like a busy human bee in other people's matters, the more her own hive cracked apart.
The future is like a mirror. It reflects what you put in front of it. If you plant kindness, you reap friends. If you plant hard work, you reap success. But if you plant carelessness and gossip, what will you reap? That was the story of Mama John and her children. After the landlord threw them out, life became harder. They moved into a smaller house on another street. This time, neighbors were already warned about Mama John. They had heard of her sharp tongue and her habit of poking her nose in people's matters. So from the first week, they kept her at a distance. At first, she tried to continue her old behavior, correcting people, pointing out faults, but people ignored her. Nobody answered her greetings. Nobody lent her soap, salt, or water. When she tried to advise, they looked at her like she was talking to herself. Slowly, she became lonely. But instead of changing, she became bitter. Her children grew up in this bitter atmosphere. They did not learn discipline because their mother never taught them. They did not learn respect because she never showed it. They did not learn cleanliness because she herself was careless. She had time to tell the world how to live, but no time to build her own home. Ada, the eldest, searched for jobs but always lost them. She was not punctual. She was careless with money. She spoke rudely to supervisors, the same way she had heard her mother speak to neighbors. Each time she lost a job, she blamed others, never herself. By the time she turned 24, she had worked in 5 different shops and offices, but never stayed in one place for long. John, the first son, never passed SS2. He failed again and dropped out. He started following bad friends who taught him gambling. He told himself he would make quick money, but he lost more than he gained. Soon he became known as the boy who always begged for coins at the betting shop. Philip, the second son, managed to finish secondary school, but he never passed his exams. He could not enter university. He tried to learn a trade, but he was not serious. He often skipped training days, spending time idly on the street. After 3 years, his master sent him away. Promise, the youngest, was the worst hit. Because he repeated Basic 6 many times, his classmates became younger than him. He was ashamed. One day, he dropped out completely. He began running errands for people at the motor park. At first, it gave him some coins, but later, he joined rough boys who smoked and drank. Papa John, tired of the shame, spent less time at home. Sometimes he stayed with relatives, other times he just disappeared for days. The children grew up with no guide, no example, only the voice of their mother blaming everybody else for their troubles. Meanwhile, Michael, the boy whose pocket was once torn, lived differently. His mother, though poor,
minded her business. She did not waste time talking about others. She focused on her children. She taught them to wash their uniforms every night, even if it meant using soap crumbs. She taught them to polish their shoes, to greet elders politely, to read their books by lantern light when electricity failed. Better to wear a torn pocket clean than to wear a fine cloth dirty, she always told Michael. He listened. Though he did not always have new things, he had dignity. Teachers liked him because he was neat, respectful, and hardworking. His mother never missed school meetings, even when she had no money for contribution. She would sit quietly at the back, listening carefully, and later tell Michael everything. Years passed. Michael finished secondary school with good grades. He won a small scholarship from a charity group that noticed his effort. He entered university, studied engineering, and later started his own small company repairing machines. With discipline and honesty, his company grew. He hired workers, built a name, and soon people in town respected him. One day, Michael returned to the old street. He came in a neat car, wearing a simple suit. The children who used to laugh at his torn uniform now stared with wide eyes. Some whispered, "Is this not Michael? A boy Mama John once mocked." He parked near a shop and stepped out. His hair was trimmed, his shoes polished. He greeted old neighbors warmly. Some shook their heads with joy, saying, "See how far this boy has come. His mother did well." But not far away, sitting under a tree with folded arms, was John, Mama John's first son. His shirt was dirty, his slippers broken. He had just lost money at the betting shop. When he saw Michael, shame filled his heart. "Michael, na you?" He forced a smile. "Yes, John, it's me," Michael replied kindly. "How are you?" John could not answer. His mouth felt dry. He remembered how his mother once laughed at Michael's torn pocket. Now Michael was the one giving jobs to others, while he, John, had nothing. Later that evening, Michael drove past the old compound where Mama John still lived. The house looked worse now, the walls cracked, the yard untidy. Children played in dirty sand outside. From inside came the loud voice of Mama John, still shouting at neighbors, still complaining about how people did not live well. She had not changed. Her children had grown, but none was successful. Ada was still struggling with small jobs. John was a gambler. Philip had no stable trade. Promise was a street boy. None of them had built a future. None had escaped the shadow of their mother's busy tongue. But Michael had escaped poverty because his mother had chosen a different path. She did not waste time on gossip. She planted discipline, respect, and hard work. Now the fruit was showing. And so the truth was clear for all to see. The busy human bee who buzzed about others lost her own hive. Her children, raised in neglect, became shadows of what they could have been. But the quiet mother who minded her business, though poor, raised a son who became a light to others. That is how life pays back. What you plant is what you reap.